Heidi back again for your next embroider a sampler tutorial. Today we'll be going over the cross stitch and the star stitch. I have my updated sampler with all of my finished running stitches and my threaded running stitch, and I'm ready to follow along with Rebecca and get familiar with that cross stitch and that star stitch. I hope you are too. So grab your thread of your choice, grab your sampler, and on we go to Rebecca to show us how to do both of these stitches.
Okay, so far we've done the running stitch, and then we've done the threaded running stitch, which has resulted in 6 complete columns on this particular sampler. Next up, I am going to show you how to do the cross stitch. I have already prepared a needle and thread with 3 strands, and I've tied off the bottom, and I'm ready to go. This cross stitch effectively works best when you work in one direction. So all of the X's should move, all the top should be in one direction and the bottom should be in a different direction. So let's start. So you pull up and you make the first part of the X, and I'm moving from bottom left to top right, and then I'm going to move from bottom right to top left. And there we go, that's the X. And then for the next stitch, or the next X, you pull from the bottom corner again to the top right, bottom right, and then top left. And I'm going to continue to do this and explain some things to you about the difference between embroidery and cross stitch. And the context in which we're using this, a cross stitch is simply an X made with 2 straight lines. So 2 straight stitches crossed over each other, which is great. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat. He's quite excited about these videos. And then in cross stitch, you use a different fabric called Aida. And Aida has quite a large holes in it, depending on which size you get. And you make little X's across that particular type of fabric. And you can create incredibly large X's, incredibly tiny X's, and then you use back stitching to fill in and make things look more realistic, if that's what you're going for. And then, anyway, cross stitch is a different animal than embroidery, although very similar in the sense that you can create beautiful things either way. So we're going to make these X's the whole way up. And in this particular design, we are using a color. I'm using the purple and pink colorway. And some of you may be using that. Some of you may be using something else. I think when it comes to samplers, it's nice to, since you're doing such a variety of stitches, you can either use all the same color, which is interesting and monochromatic, or you can use a nice complement of colors so that the colors all complement each other and give you a chance to show off both stitches and aesthetics. In this particular case, we only have 1 cross stitch column. So as we move up and down and back and forth, oh, look at that. So we need to let this out a little bit. Make sure we don't cross over. And again, as you're moving up and down a piece of fabric, make sure you're making adjustments so that it's most comfortable for your hands, for your back, for your neck. Certainly, after the last year of staying home and cross-stitching, I need some sort of neck brace maybe. But as you twist and turn and move your design around and your fabric around, don't lose sight of where the X's, with the direction the X's are moving in. So always come up and down in the same corners. If you do it differently, it honestly just, it's distracting and it looks a little bit incongruent. And there we go. And then on the back of this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide through, actually, the same hole twice. I'm going to tie it off because we're a little on the short side with this one. When you're using floss, make sure you always leave enough floss to tie it off and cut it off, because if you don't, you can actually run into some issues. And it becomes very annoying. Then you have to undo a couple stitches to make room. But in this case, we had just enough room. And that is it for the cross stitch. Pretty simple and straightforward, creates a nice little design. And cross stitches can do a lot of fun borders, fill-in stitches. You can pretty much put little X's everywhere. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we did our line of cross stitches, and now we're going to move on to star stitches. Again, these are very similar, using the same methods and very similar processes. We're effectively going to make 2 cross stitches on top of each other, so 2 X's. So we're going to follow philosophically the same thing, which is we want to always go in the order we went before. So we're going to do an X. And then we're going to do another X. I'm going to bring it down to the bottom and up. And then the final straight stitch will be a cross. So we're going to do the same thing again in the same order so that our stitches look consistent. That's our second straight stitch, third straight stitch, and then finally a fourth straight stitch. And we're going to continue this way all the way up. Again, following the design. I got a little too far over. See, we want to make sure that we're actually covering the design on the fabric, because it looks a little bit unsightly when you can see that. The vast majority of these will fade over time as far as the designs go, but you know, sometimes the kind of pen I use is a little more fade resistant. Some of the pencils wash out. You want to make sure that you actually get to your design in time after you've created it, because a lot of them are designed to fade out quickly or to wash out. And that's it. Those are our stars. This is one of the more decorative stitches we'll be doing. I'm a big fan of this one. I think it makes a great little decorative stitch. And I've seen these everywhere from, tablecloths, napkins, you name it. I've seen a little bit of these all over the place for decorative elements. And pretty much any of the stitches that we're teaching you in this sampler can be used as a border or as a decorative element. That's one of the nice things about samplers, is it teaches you some basics that you can apply all over the place.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, for showing us how to do the cross stitch and the star stitch. You might have noticed we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, and it cut Rebecca's video off right in the middle of finishing up that row of star stitches, or I should say that column of star stitches. But if you went ahead and just finished up your row, just like I did, and just kept going with the flow, you should be able to finish it up and tie it off on the back just like you do most every other stitch, you know, however you've decided is your favorite way to tie your stitches off on the back. So, in review, we have now done our running stitches, our threaded running stitch, our cross stitch, and our star stitch. Coming up in our next video with Rebecca, she'll be going over the back stitch and the fern stitch with us. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial to learn how to do these 2 stitches. Make sure you subscribe to the ITPLD YouTube channel, and if you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button. Also, don't forget, if you do have any questions, say because there was that little technical difficulty and you're still not quite sure how to finish the back of that stitch or finish off that column, email us at digitalmaker@itpld.org. Also, please share your process and project pictures with us. We'd love to see how you're doing. Leave us a comment in an email, share it on your social media. Just make sure you're either tagging on social media hashtag ITPLDmade, or go ahead and send those pictures and your comments to the Launchpad email address. You'll see those both again in the slide coming up in just a moment. We look forward to seeing you in our next video for Embroider a Sampler.